What's going on, YouTube? This is UngarToTheMax here. Salute! And in this video, which is UngarToTheMax Sports Thoughts Episode 2 and Josh's Sports Vlogs Episode 13, I want to talk about the Super Bowls and World Series, or just overall championships, Stanley Cup Finals, Super Bowls, NBA Finals, and World Series. Wait a minute. World Series, Super Bowls, Stanley Cups, and NBA Finals. So those four: NBA Finals, Super Bowl, World Series, and Stanley Cups that I consider to be my favorites of all time. So let me start with the Stanley Cups, or the Stanley Cup. The first Stanley Cup that I consider to be my favorite of all time, or not of all time, but my favorite Stanley Cup final matchup was in, what year was that? I didn't really start, 2000, what year was that? 2008 and 2009. Those two matchups between the Red Wings and the Penguins were two of the greatest Stanley Cup finals I have ever seen. Although I wasn't much of a hockey fan back then. But I've grown into more of a hockey fan now. But regardless, those two series, I believe both series, if I'm not mistaken, went to Game 7. And if not, one of them went to like Game 6. And one went to the Red Wings won it in 2008 and the Penguins won it in 2009. Let's see. Oh, it only went 6 games in 2008? Huh. Oh, that's right, because Game 6, the Red Wings won it in Pittsburgh, and then Game 7, let me make sure I've got this right, 2009 Stanley Cup Final. Yeah, 2009 was Game 7. It went all the way to Game 7. Which, those are the two best words in sport. Yep. What? Yep, Game 7. Yeah. I loved the rematch between those two teams. But unlike the current Cavaliers-Warriors stretch, Red Wings-Penguins only went 2 years. Back to back. But those were two of the greatest Cup finals I've ever seen. And both series were extremely competitive. And you had guys like Henrik Zetterberg. You had Sidney Crosby. You had Evgeny Malkin. Max Talbot. You had guys all over the place doing incredible things. The 2008 Stanley Cup MVP was Zetterberg. But I believe Datsuk was on that team. Osgood. It was great. And there have been some good Stanley Cup finals over the past couple of years. Like last year's Stanley Cup final between the Penguins and the Predators. That Game 6 in Nashville, that was one of the best games I've seen in the NHL. The Penguins didn't score until the third period. Pekka Rinne was doing amazing. He just made a couple mistakes that ultimately cost the Predators. But you can't put the blame totally on Pekka Rinne for allowing those 2 goals. The Predators' defense didn't do too well. Quick update: in Major League Baseball spring training, it's the Chicago Cubs 9 and the San Diego Padres 4. Just a quick side update. But That Stanley Cup final was good. I wish that series had gone 6 games or 7 games, but it ended in 6. And Sharks Penguins the year before, I didn't think that was that great of a series. Yes, Martin Jones had the spectacular Game 5, but other than that, I didn't feel like it was that great of a series. The Penguins kind of dominated that series. Ultimately, I think the Sharks were lucky to win the 2 games they were. Game 5, like I said, the main reason they won that game and forced a Game 6 was because of the outstanding goaltending of Martin Jones. But the other Stanley Cup final that I really liked and is one of my favorites, besides the 2008 and 2009 series, was that 2011 series between the Boston Bruins, who I do not like, and the Vancouver Canucks. That was one of the best Stanley Cup finals I've seen over the past few years. I love it when a series goes Game 7, and then Boston wins the Stanley Cup, and what does the city of Vancouver do? It burns the whole freaking town. A Canadian team hasn't won the Stanley Cup in I don't know how long. Let's see. It has gone Pittsburgh, Chicago, LA, Chicago, let's see. Pittsburgh, Chicago, LA, Chicago, LA, Boston, Chicago, Pittsburgh, Detroit. Who won the 2007? Oh, Anaheim, Carolina, Tampa Bay. Yeah. Who won the 2003 Stanley Cup? I don't remember, but it's been a string of dominance. But my top 3 Stanley Cup finals that I've seen so far: the 2008 series, the 2009 Stanley Cup, and the 2011 Stanley Cup. Oh, also the 2013 Stanley Cup between the Bruins and the Blackhawks. The way the Blackhawks won that game in Game 6, scoring 2 goals in like 34 seconds, it was one of the most ridiculous games I've ever seen. Alright, so that's it for Stanley Cups. Now moving on to the World Series. The World Series the past 2 years, these past 2 World Series, between last year's World Series between the Astros and the Dodgers, and the World Series the year before between the Cubs and the Indians, have been 2 of my favorite World Series of all time. Starting with last year's World Series. What the heck happened? It looked... Justin Turner in Game 1 looked like an absolute monster, hitting the 2-run bomb that made the difference to put the Dodgers up 3-1. And you're thinking, even though the Astros won 100 games, the Dodgers are going to win the series. The Astros came back and won Game 2. And then they come back and just dismantle the Dodgers in Game 3. And you're thinking, what? And the momentum is now in favor of Houston. And then the Dodgers come back and win Game 4. And now the Dodgers have momentum. And then Game 5 happened. I have no words to describe how unbelievable of a game Game 5 was. That was one of the craziest games I have ever seen. Hang on, I'll get you a score. It was like you had 2 of the best pitchers, 2 Cy Young winners for that. No, 2 Cy Young winners for that matter on the mound, but both offenses teed off like it was nothing. So Game 1 of the World Series went to the Dodgers, 3-1. Game 2 went to Houston, 7-6. Game 3, Astros win that one 5-3. Game 4, Dodgers win it 6-2 to tie the series. Game 5, 13-12 in favor of Houston. Yes, let me repeat that score to you one more time. 13-12. Have you ever heard of a score that high in baseball before? Probably. You probably have, but not that often. Game 6, 3-1, Dodgers force Game 7. And then the Astros win it 5-1 in Game 7 and win the World Series. Congratulations to the Houston Astros on winning their first World Series in franchise history after getting swept previously when they were in the National League and got swept by the Chicago White Sox in the 2005 World Series, I believe it was. But not just because... I'm not just saying congratulations to Houston because they won the World Series. It's because of what it meant, what that World Series championship meant for the city of Houston. After going through Hurricane Harvey, which forced the Astros to move to Tampa Bay and play a series against the Texas Rangers at the Rays Stadium, and then they had to move a series against the Yankees to the Mets Stadium. I mean, it's a feel-good story, just like the 2013 Red Sox, although although they were different circumstances, it's still the same meaning. Because with the 2013 Red Sox, you had the Boston Marathon bombing, which I don't know why somebody would do that, but I'm not going to get into politics. This is about sports. So, two good stories. Oh, and also you can throw the 2009 New Orleans Saints into that mix. Even though Hurricane Katrina was back in 2005, the city of New Orleans was still very much reeling. So, for the Saints to deliver a Super Bowl, I'm sure meant a whole lot for the city. But getting back to the 2017 World Series, that was such a back and forth World Series. Like I said, the Dodgers won Game 1, and you're thinking, okay, the Dodgers have the momentum, even though it was just Game 1. And then the Astros come back and tie the series, and you're thinking, okay, the Astros have the momentum. Then they come out and win Game 3 in Houston, and you're thinking, okay, the Astros are in control. And then the Dodgers win Game 4, and you're like, what the heck? And then the Astros come back and win a crazy Game 5. And you're just like, what the heck is wrong with... This is what... And you're like, who has momentum? Because the pendulum has gone from this to this in favor of Houston. And then the Dodgers come back and win Game 6, swinging the momentum back here. And then ultimately the momentum swung back to the Astros as they went on to win the World Series. And then there's the 2016 World Series. Cubs and Indians. Cubs had not won a World Series since 1908. Indians have not won a World Series since 1948, I believe. And that's currently the longest streak in the American League. So, Game 1 rolls around of that series, and the Indians win. So the pendulum swings like that. And you're thinking, oh, the Indians are going to win this World Series. But no. The Cubs come back and... Hang on, let me see if I can find it. Darn it, can't go back any further. But then the Cubs come back and win Game 2, tying the series at 1. And so the pendulum swings back here. And then the Indians win Games 3 and 4, are one win away from the World Series, and they're up 3-1. Pause. Does 3-1 sound familiar to Golden State Warriors fans? I'll just let that sink in for a minute. Oh, yeah. I know why 3-1 sounds familiar to Golden State Warriors. Because the Warriors blew a 3-1 lead. Oh, what's that? 3-1? The Indians blew a 3-1 lead. You get a golf clap for that. Because although the Cubs, they really battled back in that series. And my favorite player on the Cubs was I had a massive game in Game 6. He hit a grand slam, for crying out loud. Addison Russell. And so the Cubs win Game 5. They win Game 6. Force Game 7. Indians tie it with Rajai Davis hitting a crazy home run off of Aroldis Chapman, tying the game at 6, I believe it was. And then you have the rain delay. And I briefly touched on this yesterday, but I'll mention it again. From what I heard, the Indians during the rain delay were just sitting around, not trying to bond together as a team. They were all kind of just minding their own business. But I heard the exact opposite about the Cubs. They were they were bonding as a team. They were like rallying together and saying, we're going to win this game. We'll find a way. And that's exactly what they did. So the 2017 and 2016 were two of the greatest World Series I have ever seen. Flat out. 2018, you've got a hard 2 years act to follow. 2 years. And like I said, the reason I say 2 years is because 2017 and 2016 were two of the most ridiculous and insane World Series I have ever seen. What other World Series would I include in that category? 2014. 2014 was actually a good World Series. Because that went to... Wait a minute. 2015, no. That wasn't that great of a World Series. The Royals won that in 5. I just realized 3 out of the last 4 World Series have gone to a Game 7. 2017, 2016, and 2014. And let's see, 2017, 16, 15, 14. The last 4 World Series champions have all won it on the road. 2017, the Astros in LA. 2016, the Cubs in Cleveland. 2015, the Royals at the Mets. And 2014, the Giants at Kansas City. The last team to win a World Series at home was the 2013 Boston Red Sox, who had not won a World Series at Fenway Park in 95 years. But before I get to the 2013 World Series, I want to talk about the 2014 World Series. Because nobody was expecting the 2 wild card teams to make it to the World Series. For crying out loud. That's why that's why you try and... that's not why you try and get home field advantage throughout the playoffs, just so you can lose. Which I think that was the Angels that had home field advantage, who had won home field advantage throughout the playoffs. But the Royals beat them, and they went on to go to the World Series against the San Francisco Giants. And I believe, yes, that was the year the Giants played the Cardinals in the NLCS, and the Giants went on to go to the World Series because of, who was it? Oh, Travis Ishikawa hit a walk-off home run to send the Giants to the World Series. Let's see if I can find the box. Let me see if I can find the box score for that series. Hang on 1 second. 2014 World Series. It was Giants and Royals. Let's see. Yeah, the Giants won Game 1 behind Madison Bumgarner, while the Royals won Game 2 and 3, and then the Giants won Games 4 and 5, and then Kansas City tied the series in Game 6, and the Giants won Game 7. But the main reason the Royals had home field advantage in that series was because at the time, there was a rule in Major League Baseball game that whichever league won the All-Star game got home field advantage in the World Series. Now, that's no longer a rule, and it's determined based on record. Otherwise, if that had been the case, then Houston, if the rule was still intact, then Houston would have had home field advantage in the World Series, not the Dodgers. And that could have possibly changed that series. You just never know. But, so that's the 2014. 2013 was also one of my favorites. Especially because of that Game 3 play at the end, which was called obstruction. I'm not sure how Will Middlebrooks could get out of the way on that play. He had just fallen down and his legs were up. How was he supposed to get out of the way and prevent Yadier and how was he supposed to know? I think it was Alan Craig, or maybe it was Yadier Molina. It was one of the two. How was he supposed to know that the guy was going to run home from third? He wasn't going to be able to get out of the way in time. So, yeah. Yeah. So now, I want to talk about the Super Bowls. And the most obvious Super Bowl to start with is last year's Super Bowl, which I was only off by 3 with the Eagles, and I was only off by 2 with the Patriots, because I said the score was going to be 44-31, but it turned out to be 41-33. But the controversial play in this game was the Zach Ertz play. Why? And Steelers fans, you have every right to be upset, because they're saying you called that a touchdown, but you're not going to call the Jesse James play a touchdown. And Cowboys fans are going to be saying, how is that a touchdown, but the Dez Bryant play was not a touchdown? Or how was you're calling the Zach Ertz play a catch, but you're not going to call the Dez Bryant play against the Packers a catch. 2 different situations. The magnitude was very different. But also, Dez Bryant's play was not a catch. He did not maintain possession. The reason that I heard that the Zach Ertz play was called a touchdown and was ruled a catch was because after he caught it initially, he took like 2 or 3 steps, which the referees said established him as a runner. And so he was able to dive into the end zone and touchdown Eagles. So that's my first favorite Super Bowl of all time. Super Bowl 51. Good job, Falcons. You blew a 23-point lead? No, 25-point lead. Because it was 28-3. And then your defense just collapsed. Oh, wait. There's another team that collapsed in the national championship. The Georgia Bulldogs. So it's like Georgia is contagious at blowing leads or something. I don't know. Yeah, the Patriots came back, forced overtime, and won the Super Bowl. But before I get to my other favorite Super Bowls, I need to talk about the Patriots. Tom Brady would not have any of his Super Bowl rings without help from Adam Vinatieri, Malcolm Butler, when the Seahawks should have run it with Marshawn Lynch, not thrown it. But Malcolm Butler, Adam Vinatieri, the Falcons blowing a lead. Like, Tom Brady has not legitimately won the Super Bowls for the Patriots. It was other players that won the Super Bowl for him. So, is he still the GOAT? Maybe. Of course, people are going to say, of course he's still the GOAT because of all his Super Bowls. But doesn't it say something that he didn't win the Super Bowl for the Patriots? Other players did, like Malcolm Butler, Adam Vinatieri, and Deion Lewis. Doesn't that say something? I think that takes away from his legacy a little bit. You may disagree. But anyway, so Super Bowl 48 was also one of my favorites because I like the Seahawks. And they flat out dominated. Although Michael Bennett is no longer with the Seahawks, he got traded to the Eagles, and Richard Sherman is probably not going to be with the Seahawks anymore. So I think this window of opportunity for the Seahawks is coming to a close. But they won a Super Bowl and should have won a second if only they had won the damn ball. But yeah, the Seahawks defense flat out dominated that game. Yes, the Broncos had injuries, but you can't blame that major Super Bowl loss on the Broncos players being injured. Did that contribute to it? Yes, but that's not... The Seahawks just did whatever they wanted. And then the next Super Bowl that was one of my favorites of all time was... Let's see, Super Bowl 47. Ravens and 49ers. The Hardball Bowl, or otherwise known as the Blackout. The main reason that's one of my favorites of all time is because one of my favorite players, Ray Lewis, who is also going to be a Hall of Famer, won the Super Bowl in the year he announced his retirement. So, and that was a great Super Bowl because before the blackout, the Ravens had all the momentum, and it looked like they were going to cruise to a Super Bowl victory. But after the blackout, somehow the pendulum swung from here to here. Or from here to here. That's not the motion of a pendulum, but you get the idea. And the 49ers came all the way back. And the Ravens had to take a safety at the end on a punt to ensure that to make sure to seal the Super Bowl. Okay, so there's Super Bowl 47. Super Bowl 46, Giants beat the Patriots again. Super Bowl 45, that was a pretty good Super Bowl. Super Bowl 44, as I said earlier, that was a huge victory for the Saints because New Orleans was still recovering from Hurricane Katrina. And even though it's 2018, I feel like New Orleans is still recovering from Hurricane Katrina. That's how bad that damage was. But that was big for the Saints to win that Super Bowl. Oh my God. Oh my goodness, rather. Drew Brees played out of his mind. That was... Tracy Porter having the interception. You had two of the highest scoring offenses in the league. What else could you want in a Super Bowl? So there's Super Bowl 44. Super Bowl 43. Cardinals and the Saints. Santonio Holmes making the catch at the end to win it for the Steelers. That was a great Super Bowl. Super Bowl 42. Oh my God. The first half was slow. It was 7-3 New England at halftime. No scoring in the third quarter. Giants come back and score 14 points. Patriots score 7. That Super Bowl had so many storylines. The Patriots were trying to become the second team to go undefeated and go 18-0 and join the Miami Dolphins, who had a perfect season in 1972. While the Giants were a wild card team, and they had started the season 0-2. Tom Coughlin pretty much had to beg and plead his case to the Giants front office as to why he should keep his coach. He should stay head coach. And the Giants were a wild card team. Lawrence Tynes had to kick them to the Super Bowl in the NFC Championship game against the Packers. And the week before that, they had to go on the road and beat the Cowboys and in Dallas at Jerry's World. And the year before that, and the week before that rather, they had to go into Tampa Bay and beat the Buccaneers. So, while the Patriots didn't have as tough of a road, they had to beat the Chargers in the AFC Championship game. And I believe they played the Jaguars in the AFC divisional game that year, I believe it was. I wish the Jaguars had won that game this year. Oh, I was so mad. Because we had that game until Tom Brady made that pass to Amendola. But the Jaguars will be back this season. Oh, I can assure you that. I'm actually going to touch on the Jaguars later in this video. But, so, those are my favorite Super Bowls. Now to the NBA Finals. The number one NBA Finals for me is the 2016 NBA Finals. The Cavaliers won an NBA championship. Hell yeah! First team in history to come back from a 3-1 series deficit. Yes, that was, I think, due in large part to Draymond Green getting suspended for Game 5. Although he should have been suspended during the Western Conference Finals for kicking Steven Adams in the groin. He gets away with a lot of stuff. Sometimes I consider Draymond Green to be a dirty player. And no, I'm not kidding. I do consider Draymond Green at times, not all the time, but at times he can be a dirty player. So, and then the block, the shot, the stop, it was amazing. That 2016 NBA Finals was fantastic. And then my second favorite NBA Finals. That's a tough one. The back-to-back series. So I'll wrap 2 in 1. The 2014 NBA Finals and the 2013 NBA Finals. The 2013 NBA Finals is primarily due to that Game 6, when it looked like the Spurs were just seconds away from winning the NBA Finals. I think it would have been like their 5th NBA championship in franchise history. And then Ray Allen hits the three-pointer and sends it to a Game 7, and Miami wins it. And then in 2014, Miami was lucky to win Game 2, because the Spurs flat out dominated Miami with their ball movement and just crushed the Heat and blew them out. And the Spurs got their revenge. So, 2016, 2014, 2013. What other series? Not 2012. 2011 was 2011 was a good series, because the Mavericks, many fans say the 2011 Dallas Mavericks were the last non-super team to win an NBA championship. Although I would say the San Antonio Spurs of 2014 weren't a super team, so maybe they were the last non-super team. I don't know. It's interesting to think about. But Dirk getting his first Super NBA championship, Jason Terry, Jason Kidd, who Tyson Chandler. Just there are so many guys on that Mavericks team that I'm so happy got an NBA championship, but especially Dirk. He's one of the best foreign players in the NBA, maybe of all time. So to see him get an NBA championship after what happened in 2006, it was amazing. So those are my top NBA Finals games, top Super Bowls, those are my favorite NBA Finals, my favorite Super Bowls, my favorite Stanley Cups, and my favorite World Series. So let me give you some other thoughts. I know I've said this before, but the Jaguars gave Blake Bortles a contract extension, and I think that was the right decision. But I don't think he should be quarterback because he's not accurate with a lot of his passes. Honestly, I think he's part of the reason the Jaguars lost in the AFC Championship game against the Patriots. So here's my thing. Here's my thought. Quick update. Cubs beat the Padres in spring training 10-4. But here's my 2 cents. At UCF, when he was quarterback, Bortles had some good runs, especially in the Fiesta Bowl against Baylor. But am I saying make him running back? No, I'm not. What I am saying is maybe you turn Blake Bortles into a tight end and have him play on the opposite side of Mercedes Lewis, and then you draft a Baker Mayfield or perhaps a Josh Allen if he's there, and you try and sign Kirk Cousins, and you do it that way. So those are just my thoughts. If you have different views about the World Series or the Stanley Cup Finals or the NBA Finals or the Super Bowls, give your thoughts on the comment section below. And if you liked this video, hit that like button and the subscribe button. I will see you guys later tonight for Columbus Blue Jackets live stream when they take on the Colorado Avalanche. But for now, this is UngarToTheMax signing off. Salute, go Cavs, and go Jackets. See you guys later. Bye.